All right, folks, gather round because you're not going to believe what happened to me out there in the fields. It started with my trusty old tractor, a sprawling cornfield, and the kind of encounter that'll make you shake your head in disbelief. This isn't just some everyday farming story. This one's got all the drama of a Hollywood thriller. It was a picture-perfect autumn afternoon. You know the kind I'm talking about, right? The sky was this brilliant blue, crisp and clear, and the air had just that touch of chill that reminds you summer's officially over. The corn was golden and just begging to be harvested, standing tall, ready to give up its bounty. I was working in the back 40, the field that borders the new Sunset Meadows subdivision, which, let me tell you, was supposed to be the picture of quiet suburban living. This land, it's been in my family for generations. The property line marked by these ancient oak trees that stand there like sentinels, guardians of our past. I was humming away driving my John Deere combine, listening to that soothing rhythm of harvest, the hum of the engine, the rhythmic whir of the blades slicing through the rows of corn filling the hopper. There's something satisfying about that sound, the sound of a year's hard work finally paying off. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw it, a shiny white SUV. Now there's no road that leads into the field, no driveway, no reason for anyone to be driving there. But this SUV, it was rolling right onto the edge of my cornfield, kicking up a cloud of dust. The vehicle stopped just a few feet from the oak trees, the property line that had stood for over 100 years. Out steps a woman, yoga pants, designer jacket, phone already pressed to her ear. She starts waving her hands around, pointing at me at my tractor. I sighed, shut off the engine, and climbed down. I've dealt with my fair share of curious new neighbors, but something about this felt different. I walked over and I could hear her voice rising in the air. Yes, he's tearing up our community green space with that giant noisy machine. Now I'm trying to keep my cool. Can I help you, ma'am? I ask. And she turns, eyes narrowing. She gives me a look like she's already decided I'm the villain in some drama. You need to stop this immediately. This is HOA property. You're trespassing and ruining our landscaping. Landscaping. I almost laughed. I pointed to the cornfield. Ma'am, this is a cornfield. See those trees? I waved my hand toward the line of oaks. That's the property line. This land's been in my family for over 100 years. You're actually the one trespassing. She scoffed. Don't be ridiculous. Our community map clearly shows this as a future park. I opened my mouth to say something, but before I could explain that a developer's future plans don't change a deed that's been in the county records for decades, she did the unthinkable. She got back into her SUV, and instead of backing out the way she came, she tried to do a quick U-turn. She misjudged the space, though. And that's when it happened. There was this sickening crunch as the rear of her pristine SUV slammed into the side of my combine's massive tire. The combine's fine, of course, but her car, it looked like it had just lost a fight with a bulldozer. The rear bumper, dented. The tail light, shattered. For a moment there was just silence. You could hear the wind rustling through the corn, the crunch of dirt underfoot, and then she exploded. You see, look what you did to my car, she shrieked, jumping out of the SUV. I held up my hands, trying to stay calm. Ma'am, I was standing right here. My tractor was turned off. You hit my tractor. But she wasn't having it. She was already on the phone again, screeching into it. He hit my car. I need the police here right now. An aggressive farmer just rammed my vehicle on HOA land. Now, I've been farming long enough to know that patience is part of the job. You wait for the rain. You wait for the sun. You wait for the harvest. But let me tell you, my patience was wearing thin. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and then dialed up my buddy Dave, who just so happens to be a deputy sheriff. I calmly explained the situation, all the while listening to her pace and yell, still giving a wildly exaggerated version of what had just happened. About 15 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up, lights flashing, and out stepped Officer Miller. He had this stern look on his face. The woman rushed up to him, practically throwing her hands in the air. Thank goodness you're here, officer. This man's tearing up our property, and when I told him to stop, he rammed my car with his tractor. Officer Miller looked over at me. Sir, I'm going to need your side of the story. So I told him. I explained that this was my land that she had driven onto. It accused me of trespassing and then hit my stationary combine while trying to make a reckless turn. But she wasn't done. He's lying. Check the HOA map. Officer Miller looked around. There was my combine engine cold, sitting still. There was her SUV with a dent that perfectly matched the angle of a bad turn. And there I was, covered in dust and chaff from the harvest, while she stood there looking like she'd just stepped out of a spa. Stepped my friend Dave. He took one look. Stepped my friend Dave. He took one look at the scene, at me, at the woman and her SUV wedged up against my tire, and let out a long sigh. "Let me guess," he said, "a little dispute about property lines." The woman's eyes lit up like she thought she'd found an ally. "Yes, deputy, he's on our land." Dave just shook his head, the tired smile on his face never leaving. "Ma'am, I've known this family my whole life. Ivy fished in the creek on the other side of this field since I was a boy. This has been their land for as long as this town's been a town." He pointed across the field. "The HOA is over there past the trees, your community green space. It's that patch of dirt the developers haven't built on yet." I held up my phone. "Officer," I said. "Just so we're clear, I recorded the entire conversation after she hit my equipment." I showed him the video. It clearly showed her yelling, getting in her car, and the crash happening exactly as I'd described it. Her face went from red with fury to as pale as a ghost. The fight drained out of her like someone just pulled the air out of her sails. Officer Miller turned to her. "Ma'am," he said, his voice flat, "it appears you filed a false report, and based on the evidence, you're at fault for this collision, not to mention your trespassing." Her jaw dropped. She started stammering about insurance, about the HOA, about how this was all a misunderstanding. But Dave wasn't hearing it. He just started writing her a ticket for trespassing and another for reckless driving. And then she had to call a tow truck to pull her SUV out of my field, leaving a nice little track mark in the dirt as a souvenir. The whole thing cost me about 2 hours of harvest time, but I won't lie, watching that tow truck haul her car away was pretty satisfying. The next day I got a call from the HOA president. He was as apologetic as you can be and said they'd had a meeting. Apparently this woman, let's call her Karen, had been strongly advised to familiarize herself with the actual community boundaries. He even offered to pay for any damages to my tractor, which of course there weren't any. It's a combine. It barely noticed. Now the corn's all harvested, the fields are quiet, and I haven't seen that white SUV anywhere near my property line again. And that, my friends, is the power of truth, a line of old oak trees, and a well-timed phone call. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the farm. Until next time, folks, take care.